Is college worth it? We're going to talk with someone who did get a 4-year degree, but then said, you know what? This to grad school, I'm going to go become an entrepreneur. The one and only Sierra Smith. How you doing, Sierra?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Michael.
Oh, absolutely. It's an amazing story. Let's bring people back to this time. So you're following the traditional path, go to school, get a good job, make a lot of money, climb the corporate ladder. You get the 4-year degree. Then you evaluate going to get a master's degree, and you basically say no, thank you. So bring us back in time. What was that like?
Yeah, so I was kind of always wired to be an academic. Both my parents were teachers, and I excelled in school. And so school was my thing, and I kind of wanted to get into academia as a profession and
Hmm.
be a researcher. So I started down that path, and uh, yeah, so I got my 4-year degree. And at the end of it, when I looked at the price of going to get my PhD, I just couldn't make it make sense because even with a higher paying job at the end of the PhD, the amount of debt that I was going to have to take on to get that degree didn't make it feel worth it. Like when you buy points down on a mortgage and you're
Yeah.
like factoring out how many years that's what it felt like I was doing with the degree. So I was like factoring
Wow.
out how many more years I was going to have to give up working in order to
Hmm.
pay off this degree, and then at what point I would break even. And I was like, oh, I'm starting to feel like I'm just wasting my life, like paying for education.
Wow. So I'm curious, does mom and dad do they have PhDs as well, or no?
They don't. My mom was a paraprofessional, and my dad, I'm not sure if he has his master's, but he's just been in education forever, and
Yeah.
so it feels like he does.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was just curious. I guess maybe the PhD was kind of the vision because you wanted to be a researcher, and maybe that's required for that
yeah.
kind of gig. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to teach at the collegiate level for sure and do research within the colleges. So that was why it was a requirement for that.
Kind of a ticket to the dance, if you will, the PhD.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I have no idea what a PhD is cost. I'm guessing six figures. I'm guessing. I have no idea.
I mean, of course, depends on the college that you go to, but it definitely adds up to that, especially if you get your master's first. Sometimes you
Mm.
can get lucky and like kind of skip the master's part first, but a lot of people go get their master's, then go get their PhD, and then through residency and all of that, yeah, you're racking up six figures.
Uh, so you look at that. Do you remember the moment where you're like, screw that, I'm going to try something else, and you're going to start your entrepreneur journey? Do you remember that? Like, were you in your dorm room or at home or by yourself or with friends?
Oh, yeah, I can remember graduating and having my degree and applying for jobs right out of undergrad,
Mhm.
thinking that I'll get something in the meantime. My GRE scores are good for a while. I'll kind of just get caught up and then reevaluate. And I started looking for jobs and immediately was like, I have so many better ideas of things that I would love doing more than what's available for me right here. And so immediately started trying to start a business on the side. I started a blog. I started an Etsy page. I started doing all of these other side things. I started babysitting on the side while I worked full time.
Wow. Wow. So that's interesting. So again, you were wired through your college degree to quote unquote be an employee.
Mhm.
You start applying for jobs, and at that moment you realize, you know what? Maybe there's this little entrepreneur itch I need to scratch. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure. I was very driven. So I felt like I could do a lot with my time and I operated with the belief that I could do anything I wanted uh until I figured out I couldn't. So
Well, let's go. I love the entrepreneur journey because I think I've said, you probably heard me say, I just don't, I'm not one, right?
mhm.
I don't have that itch. But you did, and you've scratched it, you've jumped in. So let's talk about some of those first businesses. What were they? How were they? What's going on?
Yeah, so the first one was a blog that was called Brilliant Traveler, and it was going to be a travel blog where I funded my travels through my full-time job, and I had weekends off and some holidays, and so I was going to take a trip on every one of those and kind of
Hmm.
do some travel hacks. And I wanted to eventually start like a tour guide business out of that, where I was taking people traveling with me, especially other
Gotcha.
females. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. So I did that for a while. It never really took off or anything, but I had fun doing it. And yeah, that was the very first one. Then I started an Etsy page where I was selling like some handmade goods. And again, never really took off. Let's see, what else did I do? I started babysitting on the side and I kind of became a household assistant to someone, and that was really lucrative. The connection I made there was really good, and I did that for probably a year and realized that I could make way more money doing things on the side like that was just myself than I could at a W-2 job.
Mm. Very, very cool. And then where do you go from there after that? Being a housing assistant or house assistant,
Yeah,
family
so
assistant.
after that, uh, in the midst of all this, I should say, we bought a house in college. So while I was in school, we bought our first primary residence, and we kind of became accidental live-in flippers,
Okay.
and sold it a couple years later when we moved. And all of this time, I'm, starting these side businesses. And that was the first big chunk of money that we had ever had. And we were like, oh, that's kind of awesome. And then we did it again when we bought our second primary residence. We fixed it up over the course of a few years. And during that time, that's kind of aligning with where we're at now in my story. I started the merchandise business during kind of the pandemic, and that really took off. And I just kind of landed in a niche that had some demand, and it that was the first like real successful entrepreneurial endeavor I had. And we had this primary residence that we were renovating as well. So those things were kind of aligning, where I was doing business, but we also had like the renovation stuff picking up, and we were just getting better and better at it.
Yeah, let's talk about that live and flip. Did you buy it with the intention of flipping it? Did you leverage a 203K loan because you knew it needed work? Or let's talk about that first accidental flip.
So the very first one that we bought in college, we just bought with the intention of it being cheaper than rent, and
Oh,
it was a HUD house, and so it needed fixing up, and we did one of those awesome $100 down
oh,
loans on it. We did not do the 203K because we felt like we could fund the repairs that it needed. It was mostly cosmetic stuff. And so we just kind of fixed it up over the course of a couple of years that we lived there. And that was from 2012 to 2014-ish that we had that house, sold it, made a lot of money on it, like 40 grand, and which we purchased it for like 58,000. So it was a lot for the purchase price.
yeah,
And then the
nice.
second one we bought with the intention of knowing that we could fix it up. We were like, okay, that's kind
Mm.
of like a thing that works. Like just buy something that needs some cosmetic fixes. And we put in a new kitchen in that second house. And so we kind of upped our game on the
Mhm.
renovations. And when we sold it, we made almost 80,000. So we were like, we're getting good at this. And that was about the time that I found your content, was when had that house for sale.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the things that is a strategy, right? More and more people should look at it, right? Buy a junker, get traditional financing, own a rock, spend 2 years in it, so you qualify for tax-free, earnings. What do I
Right.
mean by that? If you live in a property for 2 years as your primary resident and you're single, you could make 250. If you're married, you can make 500, tax-free. I have met couples that are in their 50s and 60s that's all they do. That's how they, make money. That's how they travel. Is they buy fixer uppers in a nice area, spend 2 years. You got to be comfortable living in a flip, right? Because that's not necessarily easy, but
No,
it
it's
can be
not.
wildly profitable.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because a lot of people talk about not buying because they, have the in their head that they might move in a couple of years, and it's always interesting to me because I'm like, that's a strategy though. Like you can do
It's
it
just
on purpose.
yeah, yeah. Don't buy, folks. Don't buy your forever home first. Take advantage of the process. Um, so you did a second one. You listed the second one. You find the one rental at a time content. Does that open your eyes, or where does the story go? Where's the vision go from there?
Yeah, so we were moving out of state. We were moving from Kansas to Tennessee, and I was trying to find out what was going on in the Tennessee market. And I think you had just hit on, Nashville maybe as a in one of the daily financial news but you just struck me as having the heart of a teacher whenever I found your content. And I was like, oh, I feel like I can actually learn something here. So I kept coming back, even though I didn't understand a thing you were saying for like
Oh,
months. And
oh
I just
no.
had no idea what was going on with any of it. And this is when things were pretty hot. This was
Right.
2 years ago. So
Oh
I
yeah.
was trying to understand, nothing was operating the same that we had ever known. And so I was trying to learn and figure out what's going on. And I remember thinking, oh, we shouldn't have sold this house. Like I Googled like, can I cancel the sale of this house? Because I didn't realize that the debt on it was an asset and that we should
Oh,
keep it as a rental and that there was another way to get the equity out. So I didn't know any of that. But yeah, I had a moment of regret selling that house for sure. But it allowed us to pivot. We used the profit of it to and that's what I consider our first deal that you helped us with is instead of putting all that profit into our next primary residence, we decided to split it and we got a rental and a primary residence that we could again live and flip.
did I ever send you the cards? Oh, they're behind your
Yeah, yeah.
shoulder, I think. I
Yeah.
see a golden ticket there. There you go. Oh, I
Yeah.
like it. So you said we a couple of times. Who's we in this story?
My husband.
Yeah. Okay. So um I'm guessing you met in college?
In high school.
Oh wow. All right.
Married in college. Yeah.
High school sweethearts. Oh, very cool. All right. So is he handy? Is he doing some of the work or is he off like is he the employee or what's going on with him?
At this point, he's the employee. We leverage, his stable W-2 and my inconsistent entrepreneurial endeavors. We kind of are able to balance that out really well now. So yeah, he's very handy though. We figure it out. We watch a lot of stuff on YouTube though. We just kind of
Nice.
figure out as we go, and we have connections that we can ask questions to if we run into stuff. But yeah, we just kind of do it all ourselves.
Very cool. So tell me about that first rental you picked up. You bought a primary and a rental. What kind of rental did you buy?
Um, a very boring one, a base hit kind of
That's
thing.
okay.
Yeah, I remember you saying once that, your rentals should be like watching paint dry, like nothing exciting. And that's what we got. We got a 2 bed, 1 bath rental here in Tennessee where we're at now, about 40 minutes away. We self-manage and we have great tenants. And it's just been, yeah, it's been kind of a base hit for us. And then we have our
Nice.
primary residence that we're trying to put that ADU guys strategy to use where
Oh,
we bought it
nice.
with a master bedroom that we're converting into a studio so that hopefully this can be kind of a house hack.
Yeah, Derek, that ADU guy's a genius as far as I'm concerned. He and such a giver. He was at the event over the weekend. Shout out,
Yeah.
Derek. Um, so that's really cool. So what is this Homes and Hustle that I see over your right shoulder? What is that? What is that becoming?
Yeah, so once I kind of got out of doing the merchandise stuff, I did that for about 2.5 years. And when we moved here to Tennessee, I was like, oh, I need to pivot to doing more online stuff because I don't have as much access to manufacturing as I did before where we were. And so I wanted to help other small businesses and just other content creators with what they were doing as far as hustling for their money because they're most of them are hustling to invest. And so I was trying to help them bridge the gap of like this side hustle life that they're living and finding a way to invest it. So that's for me, it's through real estate. That's been my path. And so I'm just kind of sharing my path and my strategies and the stuff that I've done to do both of those things, both entrepreneurial endeavors and real estate stuff.
I think that is such a giving way to go because there's so many people that they just need to believe it's possible, right? And there's just a lot of folks that need to see it's possible. So if Homes and Hustle is this place to go to see what's possible, ask questions, interact with someone that's doing it, I think it's a great idea. And it should be a lot of fun to watch you grow.
Yeah, thank you. And that's exactly what it is helping people understand what's possible. And I was able to convince my friend, you met him at the event though, one of my best friends to do a 203K and in Connecticut. And
Nice.
that was really, really exciting to watch him do. And it was a matter of just breaking down that barrier of what's possible.
Yeah. So I am curious, right? Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur at this point? Like, are you an entrepreneur?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
What what changed? I can't see myself being an entrepreneur. I don't know what it is. I just have this mental block, I'm sure. What was it that changed from, hey, I'm going to go be an employee forever to I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to figure it out? What was the unlock for you?
I think just understanding that I'm wired in a way to obsess to a point where I can conquer like the learning curve of anything. And I feel like that is kind of where entrepreneurs define themselves i- instead of W-2 employees, is because there's this massive drive
Mm,
to start and start over and start over and start over. And it's where I think W-2 employees have this ability to like stay in something for the long haul and not necessarily
mhm,
feel that itch to like do something new all the time. And I think
right.
realizing that I had that, because when I would get into a W-2 job, I I constantly wanted to like change things up and I wanted to make things more efficient and I wanted
Mm.
to and it wasn't, they did not like that. It was not
No,
suitable for
they didn't
the
like that, huh?
no, it was not great. So we did not, I did just didn't work well in those positions.
That's awesome. So where do you plan on taking Homes and Hustle? Because I like the name. I love the idea. Where is it today? What's Sierra's plan for, the next couple of years?
Yeah, so I want to share more side hustle, people who are doing side hustles and just giving people access to the information that they, need to find something that fits or is complementary to what they already do. That way they can, increase their income and then helping people understand the different strategies, especially this live and flip strategy as far as the
Yes.
real estate goes, because it is kind of a side hustle. Like you can live in the house for 5 years if you want to and
Yeah.
you all you have to do is work on it a little bit at your convenience. And that's the best part of side hustles, right? Is that it's kind of on your own terms. And so kind of just using both of those things to complement each other and hopefully help people kind of break out of or maybe land on the right side of the wedge, right? As the middle class is starting to
Yeah.
diverge, like helping people get on the right side by just having a little bit extra income.
Yeah. But there's a couple of stories that I love from people that come on my channel that if you need help introducing, I'm sure you don't, but if you do, let me know. Casey from Brick by Brick Wealth. Uh, her whole journey starts by creating an Etsy store, right?
Yeah.
Her Etsy store allowed her to save money to become a down payment on her first rental that now has ballooned to 7 or 8. Obviously, there's Dion, who will tell you the story about him playing video games. I think it was World of Warcraft, where he would, I don't even know how it works. I never play video games, but I guess you earn things that you can sell for money. And that
Yep.
became his down payment. That ultimately came, so side hustles can be done in lots of crazy ways. Um, so I just think people need to see it's possible because I got to tell you, I didn't know you could play video games and make money. I didn't know you could start an Etsy store. Those things never crossed my mind.
Yeah, and the one I'm working on right now is I got a dash cam that's going to be mapping everywhere that I drive, and I'm going to get paid out for the data that I'm selling as far as mapping goes. And I don't have to do anything extra other than put this dash cam in my car. So I'm sharing all kinds of stuff, and
That's
hopefully other
awesome.
people. Yeah, there's just so many creative ways, and uh, yeah, I think that people just need to know the more creative ways or the more unique business ideas that are out there, and not just this traditional, um, I need to, go dog sitting, right, or
Yeah,
babysit. Like those things are great too, and they can be really lucrative. But there are a lot of creative things that complement
yeah.
what kind of schedule you already have.
There's a friend of mine, and I'm blanking on his name, so shame on me. But secret shopping, secret shoppers. He gets
Yeah,
paid to go on dates with his wife,
right.
right? Go
That's
to the movies,
awesome.
go to dinners. He gets paid. It's like secret shopping. Um, I'll look it up and send it over. There's just so many ways, folks, if you just get a little creative. And it's wonderful to know that Homes and Hustle is going to be a place that people can go and just see what's possible. And then, of course, you stack cash and you buy assets, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing. Any thoughts or feedback? I know you did a great review with Mark, Financial Firefighter, which I watched the entire thing. Thank you. Any thoughts about the event as we kind of wrap this up?
Oh, I mean, I thought it was incredible. It's awesome to see just what you and Olivia have built, and I think the community is such a testament to the kind of person that you are. So, on behalf of everyone, like we're just so grateful for the opportunity to have got to meet in person, and it's just been amazing. I think I said this in my testimonial at the event, but a lot of people, they used Robert Kiyosaki, right? Rich Dad Poor Dad to get into real estate or Bigger Pockets. But for me, it was you. And to know that like you have that kind of impact, that you're on that level,
Yeah.
right? You've changed someone's life in the same way that those platforms have, I think is incredible. So props to
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. What did you, and again, I saw the video with Mark. So one of the things that was really important to me though was not selling a thing.
Yeah.
No swag, no books, no nothing. Um, what did you think of that?
Again, I appreciated that as far as it being in line with who you are. I think that makes total sense. I can't say that I wouldn't have purchased a t-shirt if there was one there because I definitely would have. But I think you can have it set up separately where it's not pushy. Not it doesn't have to be in the back of the room. It could be in a separate room where it's not
Mm,
out there. But for people who want to snag something, because the thing about merch, right? Which is different than courses or tickets to another event. The thing about merch is that it's kind of like community building, right? Everyone has the same
uh,
t-shirt or everyone gets to carry something that says do the work on it. So
right.
it's good for that in the sense where it doesn't feel pushy, but it feels like an opportunity for everyone to have like something that they bond over. So that's kind of where I land on it and take
Yeah.
that as that's from someone who pushes merch on people. So,
No, I'm just playing with it, right? Because these are all decisions I had to make and I had to be comfortable with for the first one, but I reserved the right to change my opinion on the second one. Um, I do like the idea of not pushing courses and all of that because that just feels very sleazy to me.
mhm,
But having you say that kind of makes sense, right? Because if I were to buy merch, because I've gone to games and I've bought jerseys and I've bought things, and I look at those now, remembering the event, right? So
exactly.
if I had a room and a couple of things, again, not pushing, but I guess it would help people with memories. I guess I could get behind that. I think I can
Yeah.
get behind that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and people could get a t-shirt and have people sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would allow everyone kind of it's just another thing that's helpful for the community.
Okay. I'll add it to the list of things to think about for next year. I have a whole document that's almost a page and a half long now. Looking to approve next year. Sierra, where can people find you?
Homes and Hustles here on YouTube, X, and Instagram.
Homes and Hustles. Thank you so much, Sierra. Take care.
You too.